Donna's ready? Yep. We'll go ahead and call the Ellis County Commission meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Here, I thought the house would be full tonight. Donna, please call the roll.
Commissioner Butch Schleier.
I'm present.
Chair Dean Hazelhorst.
Present.
Commissioner Destin Moss.
Present.
You have a quorum present.
Thank you very much. Any change to the order of business this evening? Additions, corrections, executive sessions, Mr. Jeter?
I don't have any.
Okay. Next item will be prior minutes, June 12th, special meeting. Commissioners, have you a chance to review?
I haven't had a chance to review.
They look fine to me from the special meeting.
Fine to me. Is it okay to approve them?
Sure.
Okay. We'll go ahead and approve as presented. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through G.
I move we approve consent agenda items A through G as presented.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0, Donna. Issues from persons not on the order of business this evening. Monthly departmental report. Commissioners, did you look at the nice thick packet?
Yes, I did.
Did, yep.
It's very thorough.
As usual, exactly, Butch, very, very well put together again by all our department heads. Thank you very much for doing that. Next item will be sale and removal of scrap metal at the landfill. Road and Bridge Supervisor Kurt Hoffman.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kurt Hoffman with Ellis County Public Works. Here to talk about as Dean said, the sale and removal of scrap metal pile at the landfill. I don't believe there's any action necessary for this discussion, but this is to discuss the removal of that pile. They haul in appliances, building material, fencing material, bicycles, anything that's metal. There are times they will pull stuff out of the municipal waste and drag it along down there when somebody brings some of those materials in instead of shipping it off to Garden City. We had sent out bids on May 2nd, request for proposals to 5 different dealers and gave them till May 31st to return the RFPs. The amount was for $76.86 a ton. This happens, I think, a couple times a year. Where we send this off. Past years, it brings in about $10,000 back to the landfill. If you have any questions, I'll do my best. Vern and Bill were gone, so I guess I'm what you're stuck with.
Probably no estimated how many tons were there, is there, Kurt?
I can't say that right offhand without.
There's a pile.
They could probably tell you that, Vern. I don't think Bill put that on here.
I was just curious. No big deal.
But what they do is they'll come out and they'll bale it, set it on their trucks, and then they run it across the scale. When they get everything cleaned up, they drag a magnet across the area where we have it to clean up any small pieces that they might have missed. And then once everything's scaled out, then we'll receive a check later on for it.
That'll be great. Any questions, Commissioner, for Kurt?
I have none.
Nothing for me.
Okay, thank you, Kurt.
All right, thank you.
Moving on, budget update, County Administrator Philip Smith-Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, County Administrator Philip Smith-Haynes. So this evening, I have some updated information for the Commission regarding where we are with the process of developing a budget for calendar year 2020. Also would ask the Commission to hear from the Ellis Alliance. As we noted last Monday, there was a little confusion and got the dates mixed up, so they have a representative here tonight to speak with the Commission. And then I'm asking the commission to give some direction tonight on whether we need to hold additional budget meetings with departments or outside agencies, or whether you would like me to just give you a budget proposal in July. So to start off with, about the information that has been gleaned since our last budget update on May 13th, there are really three pieces to that. The first piece is our assessed valuation, and we got some good news, which is that the county's total assessed valuation is up about 3.6% compared to the November 2018 valuation. That's good news, but it's not great news because under the state-imposed tax lid, we're only allowed to raise the amount of property tax revenue that we collect by about 2.7%. So with assessed values going up and going up faster than the tax lid will permit us to levy, we'll actually see a slight decrease in the mill levy. It does, however, generate about $167,000 more than what we had in the preliminary budget. The second piece of information is our health insurance, and as I mentioned in my staff report, we don't officially have notice yet, but the State Healthcare Commission did meet and make some decisions, and so based on what they decided for the state plan, I've taken those same rates and applied them to the county's non-state plan and derived figures which then applied an 89% county share to that per previous commission discussion, and believe that we will save about $144,000 there. And then the third piece of information, of course, is the outside agencies, and the commission did hear from outside agencies last Monday. Did also, Ellis Alliance was part of the packet, just didn't appear in person last Monday. So we have much better numbers there. They requested a total of $1,085,000 in funding. So those three pieces of information have allowed us to get where we are this evening, and that is essentially good news. We are basically where we need to be in terms of the targeted ending cash balance for 2020. You can see on the updated forecast, we're still not where we need to be for 2021, and then start having some red numbers starting in 2022. But certainly all of that picture has improved greatly since we first saw these projections back in February. So in general, it's a pretty good report, and so as a result of that, have done a couple of things with what I've shown the commission tonight. One being to put a little bit more money toward the outside agencies than what we had previously shown in past budget scenarios. A second being to tweak the health department budget. After discussions with health department staff, they had actually met their 1.5% without reducing any staff at the time, but they've since had a vacancy, and your commission has encouraged folks to come review those vacancies with the commission. So in that spirit, had conversations with health department staff and feel like they really do need a person out there at least 3 days a week, probably not full time. So we could generate a little bit of savings there. And then finally, as regards the Register of Deeds office, Register of Deeds is the only department countywide where every person in the department had to take a pay cut in order to get to their 1.5% reduction. The way the health insurance numbers fall, they're actually they'd actually be reducing more off of the healthcare side than it would cost to restore those salary reductions. And so I did not discuss this with the Registrar of Deeds. I just took it upon myself to make that recommendation. I think that that's just in the interest of fairness. We should not go there with that department. I will note, however, that there are a number of other departments that still have positions impacted. The appraiser's office, the county attorney's office, the county clerk's office, the county administrator's office, the road and bridge division, and EMS all have positions that are either held vacant, eliminated, or reduced in hours in the 2020 budget. So with that, I would ask the commission to hear from the representative from Ellis Alliance, and then I would certainly be open to any questions from commissioners and look forward to your discussion and direction.
Thank you, Phil. Travis, you'd like to come up, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Phil, and thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to come speak tonight. I apologize. It was my fault for not putting it on my calendar when I was told the first time. So just real quick, I'm Travis Colress, president of the Alliance. I've been a part of the Alliance since its inception about 12 years ago, and it has been a good thing for the community of Ellis being small and really creating efficiencies in how we operate with the Chamber of Commerce, tourism, the industrial development, and the foundation over there, which is doing some great things. And so I feel like we're strong, and it's a valuable service to our community and the county. A couple of quick updates. Dina Petit, which was our original hire for the Alliance, resigned after 12 years of service, and we were sad to see her go. But we did find a good replacement. Her name is Rochelle Eichmann. She is out of Palco, Kansas, and her husband travel down to Ellis quite a bit. They have a young girl, and they're considering Ellis as a home as they grow their family and as the years come. He's a coach up there in Palco, and they don't know how long that'll last, and they're hoping someday maybe he can move down to Ellis. So as far as any kind of significant changes, that's probably about as much as where it's at. From a funding standpoint, we're requesting to stay neutral from where we were at in previous year at $4,835, and I would be happy to entertain any questions.
Butch, any questions?
Yeah, Travis, but with the Ellis Alliance, have you done anything that has really increased the tax base in Ellis County? There we could see benefit from.
You know, we have through the Ellis Industrial Development Court Board. You know, we took over the county shop, in which case we turned that over to the private industry to create jobs. This was when the oil field was going through a high, and that created jobs for a while until the oil field went down. Now that space has been has transferred ownership, so you do have that. You know, the Chamber of Commerce does what they do. I don't have any measurable stuff, Butch, to come back and tell you how they're able to help support the businesses, the chamber businesses out there. You know, back on the Industrial Development Court Board, which I'm the president of, I mean, we continually work. We've tore down the hotel up there and got the eyesore away. We've kind of tried to create an opportunity for growth up there right next to Interstate. It's a good looking lot. It's ready to be built. We've got it on the MLS listing. We've had it there for probably about a year now. We get a few lookers from time to time, but nothing has landed there yet. So we have initiatives in place to continue to do that. The other thing the Alliance does is partners with the Tourism Committee, which has been significantly more active the last couple of years. And statistically speaking, on the results that we report a lot to the City Commission over there, who funds a big part of the tourism through the hotel tax dollars. But we have seen a lift in tourism in Ellis, which creates some commerce. Again, how to measure that as far as the tax base increase, I don't have the data to do that for you, but we're working hard to keep small town.
Do you guys collaborate with Doug Williams with Grow Hayes for on any issues? And if so, what are
We
they?
have representative, we used to have 2 representatives. I know we at least have one, Mike Downing, who is on the Ellis Industrial Development Court Board and who sits on the Grow Hayes committee. And I think we used to have another, but since the reorg and stuff there, I don't know if there's still 2. I can't think of who the second person is. But yes, we collaborate, and that is something, Butch, that the Ellis Alliance, I think, is where the rubber hits the road. Is if anybody comes to town sniffing around, that stuff will get funneled to the Ellis Alliance office, and we take that stuff. And Dina in the past has sent out emails as soon as that person walks out of the office that says, hey, we're looking for 12,000 square feet with 20-foot sidewalls and la-di-da-da, all the different things. And I feel our process to be ready for that is very pointed with the Alliance. It's just that the commercial space and the growth in that type of area, it just hasn't been significant recently to be able to report something tangible in the last couple of years. But I think we're poised for action. We've worked with a couple different entities over the past couple of years for that space at the motel, some stuff even north of Interstate that we've tried to put together. So we're active. It just takes, it seems to take a handful of opportunities before you land one. So,
Okay.
yeah. Good.
Justin, any questions?
A couple of questions. Travis, how long has the Alliance been around?
About 12 years.
12 years, okay. Can you tell me just like a little bit more of the function of it? Is it a board type of group, and then are you doing monthly meetings? Is that similar to how you would from like a Grow Hayes perspective?
Exactly, Dustin. The Alliance is made up of really 4 entities. It's made of the Chamber of Commerce, which has its own board, and then they appoint a representative from the Chamber who sits on the Ellis Alliance board. The Ellis Industrial Development Corp., which is kind of the economic development group, which I'm the president of. I'm the appointee who sits on the Ellis Alliance board. The foundation has an appointee who has a separate board who sits on our board, and then the city of Ellis has a representative on the Ellis Alliance board for the travel and tourism piece, if you will. And so then we meet on a monthly basis to cover the operational. And Dustin, the essential nature of it is we feel it's important to have a shingle on Main Street. And so, the foundation owns the old Midwest Energy building over there. They gave it to them. The foundation owns it, where it's just a triple net lease, where we just kind of take care of the maintenance and repairs and upkeep on it, that kind of stuff, and we operate that. But no way would any one of these entities by themselves be able to sustain an office with a staff person and an internet connection and a phone line and a printer and a computer. And so we pool all of our money together as groups along with the county to be able to really to simply have the skeleton budget to formalize a part-time office, which has been about 35 hours a week. Five hours a week previously was dedicated to management of the Chrysler Museum. They contract with us to do that. With bringing Rochelle on and Dina going away, we're starting Rochelle off at a reduced hour rate, about 10 hours reduced, which is helping our expenses a little bit. And a little bit lieu to where you guys are at. Some of the early indications were there's some risk there. So we didn't want to start somebody out with 35 hours and back them down to 25. We'd rather go 25 and up them to 30 or 35, depending on how that goes. But our essential function is to be that central pivot point. Our motto is success through cooperation. So we try to work together to share ideas and initiatives that we're working on a monthly basis to help each other create success with the least amount of resources possible. So that's kind of what we do.
And so then of the requested money, how much of our funding is your total budget? What kind of budget do you guys run yearly?
Yeah, I mean, so from a revenue perspective, it's about 30 $33,000, which has some in-kind in it. So, you're probably, I had these figures in my head, but, you're around between 10 and 15% of the budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I have, Dean.
Thanks, Justin.
Okay.
Thanks, Travis.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Bill, does it matter which order we go in? Do we want to talk Ellis County Department budgets first and then outside agency second? Does it matter which way we go?
It matters not to me, Commissioner. Whatever the three of you would like to discuss, I'm here to.
Choice, you want to do departmental budgets or
I'd like to do departmental budgets first.
first?
Yeah, because if we have issues there, we could still go back to the outside agencies and capture more.
That's fine. You good with that, Dustin?
That's fine.
You want to start at the top?
What?
Just want to go through one at a time where we were at, and I know Road and Bridge had like,
Okay, well, for the most part, departmental budgets essentially haven't changed except for group health insurance. So that's really the only changes that are reflected tonight. The appraiser's office, as I mentioned, they have that 3/4 time position that's being eliminated. They've saved some money on their insurance. The attorney's office, as mentioned, this budget only funds 4 prosecutors rather than 5. Again, some savings on the insurance. The commissioners, you all have done a number of different things, including reduced contract for county counselor services, reduction in capers, and then you're saving additional funding in health insurance. Courthouse general budget hasn't changed because there's no health insurance in it, but as a reminder, that was just a small reduction in what we're funding for SANE exams and blood draws and so forth, because the bulk of that budget is spent on our payment to K-Camp for annual insurance. So that's, of course, creeping up a little bit. The clerk's budget, again, they have a position, a half-time or a 3/4 time position that is being reduced to half-time as a part of this budget. Their health insurance with the new rates actually crept up a little bit. There were a couple of departments where that occurred. The coroner's budget, really no change there. The major savings there compared to the current year has to do with just reducing some of the professional services based on historical numbers. The courts, no change there in terms of the health insurance costs. They did find their savings. Primarily that was related to reductions in some of their computer equipment and that kind of thing. IT, they, like the clerk's office, actually went up slightly in terms of health insurance. Their savings were not personnel related. They had to do with contractual services that they were able to reduce. Emergency management, slight savings in health insurance. Again, the major savings there had to do with elimination of support for the CERT teams and the elimination of the Civic Ready notification system, which they feel can be handled more effectively via social media. The health department, so in the current year budget, there had been a plan to bring an advanced practice registered nurse in-house as a county employee. That hasn't happened yet, and so in the budget, that was transferred back to a contractual service and kept at minimal staffing level. In the current change that I mentioned earlier, we would take one vacant position and reduce it from 5 days a week to 3 days a week. In the administrator budget, there's a little bit of health insurance savings. The major change there had to do with the HR person going out to Public Works 1 day a pay period. In Public Works, there's significant savings in health insurance, over $100,000. But the major savings that they had was holding 2 positions vacant. Register deeds we talked about earlier. Their original proposal was for salary reductions. I've backed those salary reductions out based on their savings in health insurance. The sheriff's office originally had talked about eliminating a position, but went back and found some savings in contractuals and overtime. And so when the sheriff presented to you, he sort of changed the plan there. They do have a little bit of savings in health insurance. Treasurer's office, again, health insurance savings. They did not have any position effects. They did some minor tweaks to their budget. Noxious weed, their savings in employee costs was really an overtime-based savings. They're restructuring some of how they are doing their spray program, and they also eliminated some costs for herbicides that would actually impact some of the producers that come back multiple times for additional chemical. They did have a little bit of savings in health insurance. The juvenile detention, that did not change at all. Environmental, they reduced the staffing level. They still have the same number of people, but downwardly reclassified 2 of their staff with a retirement, and so generated some savings there. They're another one of the departments where health insurance costs actually go up a little bit. EMS, they eliminated the assistant director position. That was their savings. Election, there is negative savings, shall we say, because 2020 is a presidential election year, and it just costs what it costs to run that department. Fair building rentals, that there was very little savings in that budget, but in the other fair budget, some one-time money that was given in 2019 for some repairs was backed out for next year. So overall, between those 2 budgets, they got their 1.5% savings. Buildings and grounds, that savings was primarily in terms of some of their operating costs, particularly utilities. Now that they've all the buildings have been open for a couple years. They have a little bit better handle on utilities, so was able to trim a little bit there. They do have some health insurance savings. Communications center, the same thing there. They have more experience with the new equipment in dispatch, and so they have a better level of confidence on what they're spending, and we're able to make some trims there. And then that leaves contingencies and transfers as the last budget. There were this budget continues the transfer to Special Road and Bridge Fund in the same amount as the current year. It increases the transfer to the capital buildings fund in order to fund projects for 2020 that are in the capital plan. Also puts in a very small amount, I believe it's 20,000 in the transfer to capital equipment. And the major piece to adjust there in that budget is, well, there are two essentially. One is sort of the holding account for employee raises, and as you've previously discussed, that's programmed at 2% with the thought that it would be at the Social Security amount for next year up to a maximum of 2%. And then the other one would be the amounts for outside agencies that we'll be talking about this evening. So that's a overview of the budget, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
I think we'll just start going through with what
Sure.
Commissioner Schreier would like. You brought it up. You good with that, Dustin? We'll just start going through.
Going
one
through
at a time.
outside agencies.
No, for
Oh, for-
departmental budgets
okay.
first.
No problem.
You're good with that? I guess we'll just start at the top. Last for communications center, gentlemen. Did you have any questions on that budget?
No.
Let me get to the front here.
Three, I think. I couldn't see anything there.
Yeah, nothing there.
Okay, we'll mark that off. Stay the same. Building and grounds, I didn't have anything there either.
Where are you at, Dean?
Oh, you're going backwards.
I started at the bottom where he ended. I started
Okay.
there. Worked my way.
Hey.
You wanna start at the top?
I was having trouble
was
following
lost.
this progression as well, so thank
Start
you.
at the back
Okay.
and go forward.
Okay.
All right.
Building and grounds, gentlemen.
No questions.
Butch.
No, I'm good with that.
Okay, juvenile services.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Environmental.
Fine with me.
Yep, they did theirs.
Yeah, I'm good with environmental.
Okay. Should be noxious weed next, correct? I think Gary did his cut. I know when Kim
Did
was
we?
doing different things. I bypassed one. I was writing them down as we went. Did I miss one?
We go
We skipped over elections and EMS there.
elections and
Oh,
EMS.
yeah, we did. Yeah. I didn't have any questions on that. That's kind of a budget we can't really control. We gotta have an election.
Yep. Election's fine.
Butch,
I'm fine with elections.
EMS,
I'm fine with EMS.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
not noxious weed, huh?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm
Yeah,
fine
it's
too.
good with me.
Let's see, it was treasurer next, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I was fine with that.
Yeah, I'm good with treasurer.
Dustin?
Yeah, that's fine on that one.
Sheriff,
I'm okay with the sheriff.
I think where we're sitting, I'm fine with that. I think we'll probably have to look a little closer next year on that one at how we're spending and stuff. I know they do a good job of coming in under most of the time. That's the hard thing with this. It's budgeted, but we don't know what they're gonna have to deal with. Same with road and
Mhm.
bridge.
and from what it sounds like, it's been taking a lot of people outside of county for jail and different things, I guess.
Yeah.
Been a
Okay.
lot more.
There have been a number of out of county placements this year. Yeah.
See that, I visited with him about that the other day.
Okay.
Health department, half-time employee, I guess it's more than a half-time, it's was it a 6?
0.6, but yeah.
Sorry. Yes, 0.6.
You skipped a
Yep.
number
We
of them again.
Yeah, we got register of deeds.
Did you like what I did with register of deeds?
Yeah, that,
Yeah, I think that's
One A.
fine, Phil.
yeah, the main thing I would like to see on register of deeds, and this is, in terms of fairness, I don't typically like messing with elected officials' salaries if when they're being elected, but I also like the ability of elected officials to be able to, lower their salary on their own in terms of bringing in help and stuff of that nature. How much money did that account for when we did this back up? It was a little over 3,000-ish, wasn't it, Phil?
Yeah. So for the elected official herself, it's about $2,500, and then for her 2 staff people, it is about $3,200.
Okay. Yeah, that's the hard thing when we go in 1.5 on everybody, and a lot of these groups like this are running so heavy on staff that, it looked like Rebecca made a reduction to her salary in order to try and keep her staff as much as she could in that office. But it, so Rebecca's is about $2,500 increase, and then with the rest of the staff, how much did you say that was? 1,800-ish.
3,200.
3,200. Okay. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about that. I part of the reason on a 1.5 is to try and be fair to everybody, and I definitely want to be. That's the one thing that I do want us to come off as is fair. And I don't know, Phil, how's it set up with all of our elected officials in terms of what Rebecca did? Obviously she was going, I don't want to lose my staff because it creates a lot of problems for me in a lot more work. How does that work with, like clerk staff and appraiser, stuff like that? Obviously they can take on more work if they need to or can, but I just wanted at least an idea of what kind of hold we have on those elected officials and what kind of how they should be paid.
I'm not sure I understand your question, Commissioner. So salaries for elected officials are set by the commission by resolution.
Right.
So this proposal that the Register of Deeds had submitted would have required you all to in the resolution to reduce her salary.
Okay. So, I think that's a discussion that we need to have is, are we willing to take a reduction in salary from Rebecca or, in that would be a $2,500 decrease for her, or, find the middle ground somewhere in there where we restore that $2,500 and allow her to still take the reduction if she wants to keep her staff salary, or I just figured I'd get your guys' thoughts on that. That's the only thing. In terms of fairness, I just wanted to be able to make sure that we were being fair to all those agencies that are so heavy staff.
In terms of fairness, these agencies aren't heavy staff, they're getting by with the minimum. And when you only have a department with a few employees, the only thing to cut is staffing hours. We've had some departments not even make a 1.5% cut. They didn't make that. So, if we want to be fair about cutting elected official salary, let's cut them across the board.
Right.
That would be fair. But when we look at what the Register of Deeds offered, I think that was very gratuitous of her to offer that.
I agree.
But I don't want to take anyone's money until it really comes down taking someone's salary, and then that's going to be a decision we have to make as a board as to how deep a cuts do we want to start making.
Right.
It's just hard to compare departments when you have, I think Register of Deeds only has 3 people in the department.
Yeah.
You know, Donna has 4. Yet you go out here to the Road and Bridge and they got 50? Is that correct?
42 in
40.
Road and Bridge plus, I mean,
So-
depending on,
So it's just, nothing's necessarily fair from the beginning. It's just, we have to look at everything individually.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think if we can put the money back in her budget to get that, I think we should do that.
And just raise her salary and not the employees, correct?
No, the employees too,
Employees too,
absolutely.
okay? Because if we do that, I mean, in all fairness, we have to do that really to, well, any other department that's very small staffed, almost, we almost have to do it there too. I mean, if she has 3 and Donna has 4, right? 5. I mean, I guess what is the magic number we use? You know, I mean, I guess that's something we have to think about. What's the magic number we use?
Well,
I know.
there's just some of these departments don't have nothing to cut but staff.
Exactly, because they're all staff and not.
They're all staff. They perform, they're service-oriented, so they perform services. It takes staff to do the services.
Right, right.
So you're saying, just to follow where you're coming from, Butch, you're saying restore Rebecca's salary and her 2 staff, 3
And-
staff,
That's what I would recommend.
2 staff. Okay, and that would amount to,
well, so that's what you have in front of you. That is what the county administrator, exactly what Commissioner Schleier has
Okay.
said. And I will point out to you, and with the change in health insurance, her budget still goes down.
okay,
That, again, is a unique circumstance. No criticism of any other department, but just the math works in this one instance where you can give her back that salary and her budget still goes down.
Okay.
You're not going to find that in any other department.
Okay. Kind of get a unique situation there then.
and I guess I'm just asking this question. Why would their health insurance go down in their department, and yet, I think in Donna's department it went up, correct?
That's what Phil's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It-
how do they come up with
because-
that formula? They're all inside jobs.
No,
on-
because it's based, every person has a unique cost based on whether they're on Plan A, Plan C, Plan J, Plan Q, Plan N, family, employee plus 1, a spouse, employee plus child, or single. So there are 16 different variations of health insurance, and so every department has a different unique mix of which of those they have among their staff, and those what the state did was to adjust 8 of those variations but not the other 8. So depending on
Right.
how many single versus family people you had in your department, your cost went up or down.
Okay,
Mhm.
all based off plans.
Yes.
Thank you for that
What
clarification.
percentage reduction does the Register of Deeds show now that with that savings that you had? About 1%, 1.5.
So it's
I don't
it's $1,000 on a
on 57.
so her total budget is was 224, and it goes to 223.2. So it's a $1,200 difference on a $224,000 base. So
Okay.
Okay,
it's half of 1%.
Okay.
okay. Where would we like to be there, guys? Or Dustin, any thoughts?
You know, on such a small budget, the fact that they're able to make a cut is pretty impressive. And like Butch said, we haven't seen a reduction of what we asked from all departments, and this was all from their salaries. So, yeah, I think I like county recommendation. I like the recommendation here. I think we just stick with what we've got, and hopefully she can maintain her great staff up there that way, and not risk loss on that.
And I will point out, in the past, she has been very generous in the past, handing money back over and different things that when we went through and we've needed extra money, and she's been very willing to take extra out of her budget. So.
Well, and until this year, the Register of Deeds has always been a net revenue producing department, thanks to a change in state law.
Yeah.
That is no longer the case, but, you know.
Okay, so clarification there, Phil. We're leaving it per your recommendation.
Okay, thank you. That's
Yep.
what I heard.
Started crossing them off. I didn't. Where are we?
We're at Public
Public
Works
Works.
now.
Public Works. That's right. Okay. So Public Works Center appraiser, correct?
Public Works, then Administrator, then Health.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So Public Works, as Phil did point out, they're still short staff out there. Any thoughts or changes there?
Quite a bit of savings from health insurance there, so
Correct.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah, same here.
Administrator budget,
That's fine with me.
fine with me.
Yeah, looks good here.
Phil's not saying anything. Move on quick. Appraiser.
I'm here for Rebecca, not for myself.
Okay.
We're,
Appraiser.
no, we're at the health next.
Health Department.
Oh yeah, Health Department. If I'd look back, okay, Health Department. Kerry did, or I guess that position he did was talking about there.
Yeah, Carrie, I guess that, in fact, I don't even know how they're operating the front desk with a vacant position there.
Yeah.
But Carrie, could we hear from you for a minute?
Butch did say a minute, Kerry. Butch did say a minute.
Okay. Thank you, Kerry McHugh, Ellis County Health Services. Thank you, Commissioner Slyer. As you know, we have had a vacancy since about February. It has been very difficult to manage that front desk. An example was just last week. We had one of the front desks and one of the nurses at the immunization conference in Salina, which is part of that grant. They have to attend. And so we had to bring the biller forward to do the front desk, who really isn't up to speed on the WIC program yet. That's a very intensive training program, and that is part of the two front desks positions responsibilities, to be familiar with that and the certifications and the scheduling and all those things. So on top of being overwhelmed on Monday, our current front desk person then left on Tuesday afternoon after Phil and Jason and I met with them to go to the conference. You know, we do lots of things outside of the office. We do flu shot clinics all over town. We have businesses that call us in the fall for flu shot clinics. We take a clerical person and a nurse. It makes it much more efficient. The clerical person can be doing the paperwork while the nurse is actually administering the vaccine. In addition to that, there have been multiple times when we've had investigation type things. In talking with Commissioner Slyer, he related to me about a time when he was the administrator and when he had a TB investigation, that it was really all hands on deck and they needed every position to do that. We've had the same kind of thing. 2 weeks after I took the position, we had a possible measles case at Fort Hays State. We had 50-some contacts that we had to track down and follow. So there again, that was all hands on deck. Can we do it half a day or a half-time position? we can. It would be much more efficient for us if we could have that position full-time as I initially budgeted to you. I think the difference is somewhere around $15,000.
Would you recommend the full-time position?
Without sounding greedy, I would prefer to have that, but I understand that everybody needs to do their share.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in the initial budget proposal, moving the nurse practitioner down, that was our 1.5%. You know, I kind of created this in an employee issue. If that wouldn't have happened, we would have had this position in place.
Commissioners, just from a historical perspective, at one point in the, so we had 5 clerical personnel, and when we needed to grab 2 of them and run somewhere, we could do that. And we've done that with frequency. Like I say, I don't know how Kerry's even keeping the doors going with 1 clerical position. And he has a billing clerk. Unless you're familiar with the programs, it's hard to be at the front desk and man it. All of the knowledge I have with the WIC program, and I knew the administrative part of that very well, I couldn't manage the front desk on that program because it's just separate and intricate. So I believe Kerry definitely does need that part-time person, and he could probably really justify a full-time person. But then again, maybe we just don't have funding for that either.
Okay, thank you, Butch, for your interaction.
I will, Commissioner Roth, you asked about contacts. Last year, we were just under $7,000, and I look back, I think it was 12. The high was about 9,000, a little over 9,000. And Butch could probably tell you the history, but basically there were some changes in requirements, and a lot of the physicals that we were doing at that time were actually coming into the health department. And I remember taking my son into the health department for a physical.
Mm-hmm.
They changed some of that legislation and made it go into a clinic area. We weren't classified as a clinic area. We are now, and we're starting to see some of those. An example, a nurse and our nurse practitioner went to one of our smaller communities in May and did almost 225 sports physicals. So, and we also now have an opportunity in one of the local school districts to do more. So some of those can be healthies and sports physicals and things like that are coming back to us.
Right, and when we get back into August, the back-to-school physicals and again, sports physicals will be on the prospect too.
We are working with USD 49 to try and get into the registration day so that we can avoid some of those, the school district calls it drop dead day, where if they don't have all their vaccines, they can't come to school the next day. I know if I was the kid, I probably wouldn't mind that. But that day in the health department is crazy. Mm-hmm. I didn't, this last year, I did not realize the date was that day, and I walked in and there's like 25 people in our, it's crazy on that day. So we're trying to avoid some of that chaos. But to answer your question, without trying to be selfish and take that $15,000, we truly could use that position full-time.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Kerry. Dustin, do you have any questions?
Carrie, I just wanted a quick clarification.
That was my fault.
7,000 contacts with patients, correct?
Across the board.
Okay, does that includes the WIC program?
That includes WIC, that includes immunizations. Today was immunization day. All afternoon, we had just a steady, constant flow of people coming in from immunizations. Our nurse practitioner was there today. She had a couple patients come in, and so, yeah, that's all contacts. In fact, in the report that you have from last month, the bottom line should give you a number of that so far. Now, keep in mind that we're early in the year and we haven't hit flu season.
Right.
And that's a huge number of vaccinations.
How much discretion do you have on, you said you have some outside businesses that call for immunization days and things like that. My hope is that we can give you an employee, whether it be the part-time or full-time, and you be able to schedule around when you hope to have better staff and less people through the clinic as you monitor that and go do these things at that time period. In all, I think we have to have a big discussion about the health department, and that's probably not right now, but what our goals are for the future and things of that nature. And as you alluded to, I think probably the number one thing that we do that's extremely important from a government standpoint as opposed to a clinic standpoint is monitoring these infectious diseases, and it's something that we have to do statutorily. It's also something that seems incredibly important when you start talking about an outbreak like you're talking about. So, that's kind of where I'm at on it. Is I just want to get your feeling. I think I'm in favor of getting him the part-time staff. If he continues to feel like he's being overwhelmed on certain days and things like that, maybe we revisit it. But I don't know what your guys' opinion is on that.
I think there was a question in the very first part of that.
Yes,
and that
yes,
question was, do we have some discretion? Yes, we do. And we try and schedule those. Last year, we had 2 clerical people and 2 nurses. And so essentially what they did was took turns. This year, we have 1 clerical person and 2 nurses to do that. So we will have to use some discretion and try and avoid WIC days and those kinds of things. But something else that you need to remember we also have to use and build into that is PTO, or time off.
Right.
Our current clerical person, before I left the office to come down here, handed me 5 days in September. That's right in the heart of, because it's her 30th wedding anniversary. That's right in the heart of flu season. So it's going to make it difficult, and quite frankly, we'll just have time at this point to get that position. If you allow us to put them in, hopefully by that time we'll have that person trained and ready to go either way.
Well, Carrie, with the vacancy created by the vacant position, you should have funding to put in a part-time position almost immediately, shouldn't you, for the rest of the year?
Yes, sir. This year's budget has that position in it, and the initial budget proposal that I provided you had that position in it. And I think our administrator then took a few dollars, I think it's almost $15,000, that he removed from that initial proposal down to essentially a half-time position.
Well, let's start maybe with a part-time position, and when it comes to the surveillance activities, your support staff only enhance it, but they enhance it.
And I imagine this is a long time of training and cross-training, and like you said, it's pretty hard to bring somebody from billing to handle our WIC program if they have never done it, so.
Not only the training, but then there's modules that they have to take and be certified on, not certifying the WIC clients, but they have to take the person we put in there has to take the training and be certified on those modules. And as Butch says, I can't even attempt to manage my way through that WIC software to
It's ugly.
So part-time position, guys?
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think that there's a key factor in there that I think we need to keep in mind as we discuss health department in there, and that was when the sports physicals went away because we weren't considered a clinic for that time period. I think we need to take into mind that the free market took over, and those sports physicals were done by someone, and I grew up in a county that did not have a health department. We obviously had the oversight of the typical oversight, but When we had sports physicals, it was our local hospital that sent a nurse down and or APRN, and that's how we had our physicals done. I think that we need to keep that in mind in terms of some of the activities that we do that at some points we're competing with the free market, but obviously for incredibly important things in Ellis County.
We are, and I think, Commissioner, when you know, the main purpose of the health administrator is for surveillance of these diseases. And having a mid-level on board enhances that greatly. There were a lot of times I had a person with a positive TB skin test, needed a chest x-ray, and didn't have a doctor. And now I'm looking for someone to script an x-ray. When you have a mid-level there, they can script it. They can script labs that are needed. You can get things done just more expeditiously. And it enhances surveillance. Having that mid-level there, you got to find things for them to do that generate revenue. You just have to. So I think Kerry made a very good push here, trying to get into these sports physicals and things like that.
Well, and to address kind of the competition thing, I don't view us as competing. We have clinics all over town sending patients to us. Just today, a clinic sent us a child for a polio vaccine. We get people from all different avenues coming in. So we aren't competing. We fill a different niche in the community than what the typical healthcare community does. Now, I will tell you that we've tried to build collaborative approaches across the board. I think one of the good ones is High Plains. And in fact, I met with some of their staff today about just touching base how we could expand upon that. So those are what we're trying to do, is fill those vacant niches. And not sure what the healthcare future has in store. Specifically, the state of Kansas is looking at Medicaid expansion. That can have a dramatic effect on this department that you need to remember.
And not by dramatic effect, you mean in a positive or negative way. If they incentivize Medicaid patients' pay structure, do you feel like that enhances us, or does that create a bigger competitor across Canterbury?
I would wait to answer that question to see what they produce.
All skeptical now.
I mean, I can tell you that the Kansas, I sat on a committee with representatives of the Kansas Hospital Association. They are pushing very hard for that Medicaid expansion because of the amount of dollars that has slipped through Kansas. And they will tell you, while there are 3 hospitals in the state of Kansas that have already closed, every meeting we have on a quarterly basis, they will tell you there are 5 hospitals, they won't name them, but there are 5 of them that are teetering, that have less than a week's worth of cash on hand to operate on. Now, that has huge ripple effects in the community. Independence lost their hospital. They thought the unit utilization for their EMS service was going to double. It tripled. They weren't just transporting people 5 minutes. They were transporting people 45 in an hour to their next closest facility. It'll have the same type of effect on the health department. Hayes Medical Center is, from my understanding, is very sound. I don't think we're facing that. But I think we have some of those same things in our community. I have been told that the clinics in the community, since the convenient care opened, I'll finish real quick here on one last thing. The younger generation wants to go to the convenient care, see a physician, and then move on, unlike those of us that are our age that want to see a physician and continue that family physician. So thank you all.
Thanks, Kerry.
Half assigned position, correct,
Yep.
That
guys?
sounds fine with me,
Moving
yes.
on. Next one.
Emergency management?
Yep.
EMS.
Emergency management.
I have EMS. Any questions there, guys?
No questions there.
No?
None? Okay.
IT?
IT.
Any questions there?
No?
No
I don't have any.
questions.
Courts?
No questions.
I had no questions.
No questions.
No questions.
Coroner. No problems.
No.
Nope, I had none. Clerk?
No
Yeah.
problem.
I have an issue with the clerk. Again, I'm going to go back to what Dustin said in terms of fairness. I believe Donna has a three-quarter time person. She was willing to make a half-time person.
The halftime, yes.
And now across the hall, we've just reinstated all of their personnel. And I'd like to hear from Donna about what that means and
Well, I think fairness is a big question because we don't have union any longer. And employees are saying, you know, we had the union and it made it fair for all county employees. And I have 4 employees and I highly commend them. They came to me stating that they didn't want to lose the three-quarter time of our employee and they would give up some of their time to keep that position at that time.
By giving up their time.
By giving up their time and not losing the employee benefits. And you change the personnel policy for that. But, you know, they have problems too because not all county departments did the cut that you requested. And here we're working through this. We have no avenue because we're 95% personnel.
Donna, what would it cost to reinstate that?
I did not have time to check on that. I mean,
Do you know?
$14,289.
Thank you.
14,000? 285?
280.
285. Very good job.
If that position goes half-time, Donna, do you anticipate that person looking for another job or
Oh,
losing the
definitely.
position?
definitely. And that puts us in a crunch because I have employees that have a lot of PTO time, the experience with Ellis County, so they have that benefit for taking that time off. So it's a big concern for me, especially coming upon our big election next year, 2020.
Dustin, thoughts?
You know, the tough thing with her department is we saw an increase from their health insurance rates, which is you know, the assumption that I see as far as making it tough on us. I know that yours was definitely one of the departments that made some tough decisions, and we have to make just tough decisions. There's no doubt about that. You know, I don't know how I feel on this, but it is a concern of mine as far as fairness. It really is.
Right, and it also affects employee morale. When they can look across the hallway and I know morale is an issue as we talk, much less with get something like this started. You know, I would prefer to see the position reinstated to a three-quarter time. And if we have to, we can look at the outside agencies and recover money from them. Make additional cuts there.
You know, Butch, I agree with you on about, I mean, I agree with you on that also. I mean, and I also agree with Dustin on his side as far as the, where we're making tough cuts, but I mean, I do think we can look at the outside agencies, I guess, and until we get to that point, I don't know where you guys are at. I have my list as far as cuts, but I guess if we get there.
If we get there, we'll look at some more. I'm going to make some recommendations.
Sure.
But we were going to cut a couple of $100,000 off the outside agencies, and I think Phil cut $100,000. Is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioner. I reduced the target. I increased the target to $100,000 reduction rather than a $225,000 reduction.
doing the math real quick to see what I did on mine. I didn't do the exact math here. Hang on one second.
You know, I think the big thing from my perspective is this 2020 election and how smoothly it's run from Donna's office. I think that's my biggest fear in the 2020 budget is her losing staff and risking, especially with new equipment that we're going to be utilizing for the second time only in a large election. You know, I think that I would agree with you. I think if we can go back to 3/4 time and Donna has a little more confidence in maintaining her employees, I'm okay with that for a year. And then I think, you know, obviously we look at these projections and there's real tough decisions next year.
Well, there's tough decisions coming.
And even on the outside agencies.
Yep.
Okay.
I think let's.
So I think I heard restoration there.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, so restoring that to 3/4 position. County attorney's not correct?
Courthouse?
Oh, courthouse, yeah, I guess I didn't have any.
Yeah, nothing
Did
here.
you have anything
Well-
on the courthouse?
Commissioners is before, but imagine we're okay there.
Okay,
And then attorney.
county attorney,
Yeah, I have an issue.
okay.
And I'm so glad, Dustin, you brought up the issue of fairness. I've been struggling with this for quite a while, but I think in fairness to the taxpayers of this county, that if an individual has an offense against their person or their property, and the culprit is caught, that culprit should be prosecuted. And yet Mr. Dries can't make that guarantee because he doesn't have enough attorneys. It's not fair to the taxpayer. In addition to that, it's not fair to Mr. Dries. He has an election coming up next year. He may or may not have an opponent, but to hamstring him by not giving him the resources he might need to prosecute, I think is very unfair to Mr. Dries. And by not giving that attorney to Mr. Dries, it reflects back on this Board of Commissioners. And it does come down to a public safety issue. So I would like to see us, we were going to, and I have nothing against the Grow Hayes, but we did find $27,000 for Grow Hayes, yet we didn't want to give Commissioner or Attorney Dries $34,000 to get him an attorney this year. I would really like to see us see what we can do there.
Okay, thoughts, Dustin?
You know, I would say that I have definitely heard from Tom. I think Tom has asked us multiple times to add a position. You know, in all honesty, I feel like this is I feel like that selective prosecution is probably the biggest issue. I think for me is if he decides to prosecute on someone, I think that can be done as he goes through. I know that he has backlog. I have spoken with a few attorneys around town about how the office is run, and his budget, it has increased over the last few years. My biggest fear is I feel like we're kind of going backwards on what our goal is here, which is to not spend money or not increase these budgets, but try to maintain what we've come to, because either way, you know, right now we're spending down $1.4 million in liquid assets plus every year. I just don't think we can keep going down this path, and my biggest fear was immediately when we got a little bit of good news about our tax collection that I'm getting phone calls and asking for funding to specific departments. It wasn't that great of news. It was good news, but it's not that great of news. And if we just spend it off, then we just have to make those hard decisions next year. And my big fear is that next year we're going to have another $1.4 million we're going to have to find. And with that $1.4 million, I imagine Tom might hire an attorney, and then we got to cut your funding. So I think we've discussed this at large and for a long time, and I think that as much as I feel for Tom in his position, you know, I want him to do as good a job as he can for the voters under that, and I think the voters will take that into account. And I don't know if he's decided to run again or not for the position, but I think I just am fearful of making a decision that affects that department for the long term right before an election cycle. That's my feelings on it.
Thank you, Dustin. Anything else to add, Butch? No?
Well, I agree with what you say, Dustin. We are trying to cut funding, but we're also trying to provide services. You know, and that's just the give and take, trying to maximize our services with the funding levels we have. And again, it's a fairness issue. If you had a burglary in your store, I'm sure you'd want the culprit prosecuted. You wouldn't want Mr. Dries to say, well, I put it on the pile over here. When I can get to it, I'll get to it. That's the position he's in.
And I think it does go back to that. I think it is selective prosecution. I believe you 100% on that, Dustin. I mean, I know some cases get priority, there's no doubt, and some don't. It depends what they are.
Sure, depends on what they are.
And I think that's been the case for a long time. Dustin, I agree with what you're saying also. I mean, we talked about this for years, long before you and Butch were ever on here. Butch heard it as a department head, unfortunately. He heard it then too. But going back, I mean, I believe it's $30,000 to add that extra attorney in. Is that correct? I think it's 30, isn't it, Phil?
And that would be for the remainder of the current year.
Correct.
It's
Because that's what's money's available. So total, it's going to be
it's
about 50.
upwards of 50 for
Yeah.
next year. Yeah.
And I guess that's the part that concerns me. I know Tom does have some people retiring, or one individual retiring this next year, and I know he'd like to bring a person on for that reason. But when it comes to that selective prosecution, I guess I have a problem with that. You know, if we can pick our cases, I know some go to the front line and some don't. Some probably never get touched, I'm sure, in his office. I'm probably very sure on that in the pile. Some cases never see the light of day and they go away, which is unfortunate. But the other side of that is, until I see how we're going to cut outside agencies and different things like that, I guess obviously we are, because we've talked about it across the board up here enough times, it's going to happen. I guess I can't vote in favor of it yet. It might be something we have to come back to, but for right now, I mean, we're asking everybody to cut, and everybody has. I know in Tom's department, it's all staff. He don't have any machinery to cut out, like Public Works or any of the other things. It's all staff. But I know he has a gentleman in mind he'd like to bring back to Hayes, a young man, I believe. And that would be great. Somebody that might stay here in our city for many years to come, but I can't fund it yet either. I guess that's where I'm at, because it's 30 this year, it's 50 next year. And you just brought up, you know, where we're at, Dustin, for next year. And I hate to see Tom hire someone today and the same time next year we're laying that person off.
Yeah, I understand that too.
You know, that's the part that concerns me. I hate to have somebody start a job, they're with us for a year, and then we have to get rid of them, and that does concern me, Butch and Dustin both. That does.
Yep.
That does concern me. So I guess as of right now, I'm not in favor of funding it yet unless we see some other money coming down the pike of cutting where we could maybe go back to. I mean, I guess we could vote on it if you guys want, but, I
Yeah.
mean,
There'd be no need to. You guys wouldn't, you aren't voting for it anyway, so.
so I guess that's definitely, I think, a position we need to keep in mind, because I know he does have a backlog. He told me today
Mhm.
of his backlog, and it's not a small backlog. It's a huge backlog.
Mhm.
But we also need the 30 this year and 50 for next year, 50 plus time you do the benefits and everything. I mean, it's all in there, so but I think we need to pass on it for tonight, guys, and go forward.
You know, I think I trust Tom with that selective prosecution. I think he's gonna prosecute cases that need to be prosecuted, and you know, if he doesn't have time for low-level drug crime, things like that end up getting put on the back burner, I hope he does. I hope he gets a break and gets some time to get caught up, and that staff gets caught up. But as of right now, that's how I feel like this is where we're at. We just because we get a little good news doesn't mean we can spend money like it'll always be there.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we did get some good news, as Phil pointed out, from that pipeline company. That was
Yep.
great, but it's not going to be there every year.
Mhm.
Yep.
So, okay, let's
Okay.
move forward to the appraiser, correct?
Everything's fine on that for me.
Yeah, it's fine too.
Butch? Yes. Okay. Did I skip anything?
I think that got us there.
Did we do treasure? We did? Oh, yeah, we did. Put a check mark by it. Okay, I think we can move to outside agencies now. Phil, you have a question? Oh, okay. Thought you were gonna say something, sorry. Outside agencies, gentlemen, are you good with moving on to there?
Might as well,
Fine.
yeah.
Shall we start at the top again? I guess how I'd like to do this, fellow commissioners. Phil, you have a comment? No? I just thought you did.
Just looking at you, that's all. I'm just looking at you.
You gave me that look, and I'm thinking, rot-row. I guess what I'd like to do, gentlemen, we'll just start at the top with Dustin, if you want to start first, and we'll just go down the line, or Butch, and we'll keep writing them down. Let's just start at the top, what you guys are thinking, and I'll share my thoughts, okay?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, who wants to go first? Doesn't matter. Dustin, High Plains Mental Health.
I would, the number I have beside High Plains Mental Health is at 265,000.
Okay.
I was thinking 250.
I'm 260.
Well, that's a compromise.
So I think we can all compromise. I think our county administrator is writing them numbers down, maybe. You guys good with, you were at what?
I was at 265.
265, you're at 250,
Mhm.
and I'm at 260. Shall we meet in the middle, guys?
260 sounds fair with me.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Next one, DS&WK.
I at 216.
Okay. Butch.
I'd like to see that come down around 210.
Okay, I'm at 220.
Okay,
216, 210, and
16.
meet in the middle again?
sure, meet in the
Fine.
middle.
Okay.
Okay, Hayes Area Children's Center.
I'll
The
do,
only option I found is Hayes Area Children's.
How did that come about?
that heard you. I have that one at
Over there.
120,000.
Okay,
I can live with 120,000 on that.
I have the same thing. I got 120.
Okay.
Senior agencies, gentlemen, I didn't change any of them. Dustin, did you?
I like as presented on those.
Butch?
Same here.
Okay, that makes it easy, guys.
Really appreciate them coming to the table with that.
Yep, that was good. Ellis County Historical Society, gentlemen, Dustin?
I have that at 75,000.
Okay,
I was thinking 75.
I had mine at 70. Is 72, 250 okay?
Sounds good to me.
72.5, is that what you said?
72, 250.
Okay.
If you want to meet in the middle,
Sounds good.
that's close enough for you guys. Ellis County Conservation District, Dustin,
I had that one at 60,000.
Butch,
I was thinking more 55.
I'm at 50.
So 55-ish.
55,
Be
is
the
that,
middle.
is that good with you guys?
Yeah.
I can live with that.
55. Let me change mine. DS&WK Access Transportation, Dustin,
50,000.
I'd go with 50,000.
that's where I'm at. Grow Hayes, that might be a touchy one. Dustin,
I've got 30,000 on that.
Butch,
I could live with 30,000 on that.
I have 25.
Okay?
Meet in the middle, or where do
Yeah,
you guys
let's
wanna
meet in
be?
the middle.
27.5.
27.5. NWP and D,
I think that,
That's our membership.
yeah, that's our
membership
membership. I think that they need to figure out a way if they can live with that or not, that
Mm-hmm.
22.5.
Yeah.
okay, I didn't change mine either. I have a little bit of a burr about that whole program, but anyway. Western Kansas Child Advocacy. Dustin,
I have 4,500 on that one.
Butch,
I'll stay with 4,500 on
I
that.
had 5,000. I'll go with 45 with you guys. Casa of High Plains, Dustin,
I had 5,000 on that.
Butch,
I'm at 45 on that.
I'm at 5. Meet in the middle,
Sounds good to me.
47.5.
Yep.
Or 4,750.
4750. Ellis Alliance Association, Dustin,
I had 2,000 on that.
Butch,
I can live with 2,000.
I have 1,000.
Okay?
1,500.
1750.
I don't care. 1750. You guys outnumbered me on that. We'll go with 1750. Hayes Arts Council, Dustin,
This is one that I had just eliminating funding.
I could do that.
I'm with you. Okay. Ellis Junior Free Fair, Dustin,
Same, I had eliminating funding on that
I
one.
could do that.
okay. Same thing. Humane Society,
I had 3,000.
Yeah, 3,000.
I have 2,000. 25 or not? You guys tell me. You got me outnumbered by 1,000.
Do the kind of meet the middle 2,600-ish?
Yeah, we
Sound
could do
fair?
that.
You good?
Yep.
Okay, 2,600, Phil. Center for Life Experience, Dustin,
I had 2,000.
Butch.
I'd stay with 1,000.
I had 2,000 also.
Okay?
Uh,
1,500 or 2,000?
17.
Um,
Or what do you,
1,700. Is that?
Okay.
you fair with that, Butch?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
17. I have no idea what the total is, but
Well, talk amongst yourselves for about 2 minutes, and I'll tell you what that total is. How about that?
gentlemen, I do feel, I mean, I think we took a step in the right direction. Some of them, I got to admit, I had a tough time cutting.
Yeah.
High Plains Mental Health does a lot for our county.
Absolutely.
I changed my number 4 times before I brought that number tonight. I worked on it Friday, and then yesterday, I even ran it by my wife a couple times. I said, "What do you think?" And I told her everything High Plains Mental Health does for Ellis County, and so I changed my number. I changed it 4 times yesterday to bring this number tonight. So
My hope in most of these was that we wouldn't affect staffing in their groups and allow them. The nice thing about High Plains Mental Health is the large budget that they have. So this decrease, it's meaningful for us as far as our outside agencies go, and it's like the discussion we had when everyone presented. I want everybody to take a hard look at this list. It's all something that you can donate your hard-earned money to, and we don't have to collect it through taxpayer money.
And that's one thing I was gonna point out to some of the outside agencies. I've been involved in a lot of fundraisers over time, and still am. I think there's some opportunities where High Plains Mental Health, I'd love to visit with you maybe about a fundraiser down the road that I've been involved with that's been very successful. You may or may not be interested, but it's been good, and I guess it's something, I mean, you do a lot for our county. I mean, I'm very appreciative of everything you do. That's why I said, I changed my number 4 times before I came tonight, but I do appreciate everything that all the outside agencies do for our county, and with having some interaction with High Plains Mental Health with a family member, you guys do a lot for our county, and thank you very much. I think our county administrator's getting close. I see steam.
Well, I added him once. I'm just double checking.
Kind of like your Christmas list, checking it twice.
Exactly.
Bill, you have a report. Why? Huh? Why Phil's checking his list 3 times, so it's official. I'd like to move on to the county councilor
County
report.
Councilor Bill Jeter, just a reminder, tax sale tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the courthouse, third
Okay.
floor courtroom.
Okay,
As of the last I heard, there'll be 7 properties.
7 properties for sure, okay?
Yes.
And then they still have the option as of auction time to pay them off? or
Today.
not? Today was the cutoff day,
Right.
so they will go to, if they come in
Right.
tomorrow morning, it doesn't matter.
Well, we'll probably accept it tomorrow morning, but
Okay.
it'd have to be before 10 o'clock.
4:10 a.m.
Yeah.
So if you have a property on the sell list, show up with cash in hand before the auction.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Well, we'll go back to our county administrator. He looks like he's ready to give us a number, and the number is.
I added it twice, and both times came up to $928,800. So just to go through them again, make sure I got the right numbers. So I have
28,800.
correct. So I have High Plains Mental Health 260,000, DSNWK 216,000, Hayes Area Children's Center 120,000. The senior agencies.
How does it do that?
She loves Hayes Area Children's Center, doesn't she? The senior agencies have not changed. So 16.5, 9,500, 52, 14.5, 18,250, and 2,000. Ellis County Historical Society 72,250. Ellis County Conservation District 55,000. Access Transportation at 50,000. Grow Hayes at 27,500. Western Kansas Child Advocacy at 4,500. CASA 4,750. Ellis Alliance 1,750. Arts Council 0. Ellis Junior Free Fair 0. Humane Society 2,600. Center for Life Experience 1,700.
That's what I have, gentlemen. Do you have the same?
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
Okay,
okay.
so that adds to 928,800, which is a savings of 23,200 over what was shown on the sheet tonight. So
So off of the total 153, that's still, well, we're still down 100 and, what, 140, 150?
$124,200.
Okay. Thank you all for your input on that again. I guess with that being said, before we move on to the next item, Phil did have on the agenda Friday meeting. At this point, I don't think we need to have a Friday meeting. Do you guys feel we do?
I don't believe I need one.
Dustin, do you?
I would say we've got it panned down, and if any of the departments felt like they wanted to come to us and present, allow them to do it at one of our regularly scheduled meetings, and that way we make sure we're not shutting them down if they would like a chance to talk. But I think we've got this panned down pretty well right now. I imagine we'd just be spinning our wheels on Friday, with the same stuff. So
I think so too. You good with that, Phil?
Yes, so I will spread that message to the departments that if they want to present it, I'll say the first 2 meetings in July.
okay.
And then hearing nothing at the 3rd meeting in July, I will present you a budget for publication, and then that will allow us to adopt on schedule in August.
Great.
Okay. Thank you for your hard work on this too, Phil. I know you spend countless hours on this.
Oh, well, credit to all the department heads for their work.
We bypassed Mr. Jeter. He gave his report, so let's go to County Administrator Report, Philip Smith Haynes.
Mr. Chair, I believe you've heard from me enough this evening.
Thanks for pointing that out. County Commission reports, Butch.
Just want to report I was fishing today and want to make a fishing report that it's still good out at Cedar Bluff and fish are biting.
Thank you. Dustin?
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't report that tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. my wife and I will be headed to Hayes Med Center to hopefully bring my baby girl into the world. So if I seem a little tired at the next few meetings, you know why. And I just hope that they're healthy, and I can hope I keep my wife happy for the next few months. And those are my goals. I do have a Leadership Kansas event that we'll miss on the next Monday meeting. Right, we don't have next Monday, correct? So I will be going to Kansas City for Leadership Kansas, and as I said, my wife's not too happy about that one, but we make a commitment in Leadership Kansas to be at as many as we can, so barring no health issues with the little girl, that's what I'm going to hope to do, and hopefully I get another good round of good feedback. This has been highly, I just got a ton of knowledge from what I did out in Garden City. I've had multiple people discuss with me the growth of Garden City and how they've been able to do things. I hope that I continue to get more and more knowledge to bring back to Ellis County and help our citizens with it. The last thing I'll say is, as tough as this meeting was and as tough as it is talking about budgets, we still have a financial forecast that is extremely bleak. There's still a lot of red on here, and next year we are looking at, unless we figure out a way to find it, we're still looking at $1.45 million that we got to figure out. So it's a lot of money. It just gets worse and worse as you go along. So once again, I said I think we can figure this out. I think we got to figure out where we're overspending in Ellis County. If we can figure that out, and as the people who control this budget, we gotta be as strong as we can and do as good of a job at keeping the services as we can. So that's all from me.
Thanks, Dustin. I want to congratulate Darren Myers on his award this past week. Well, I guess he hasn't actually officially got it yet, not till, is it July or August? July. So congratulations on your award for being certified, and thank you very much for your service. Darren, just a quick deal. There was, how many got that award this year? Like 15 or not? Less than 200. Oh, less than 200. So there's just that many in your class then, when that you went through?
They have multiple classes.
Okay. Okay, well, good. Congratulations on that. We had a Workforce One meeting, but unfortunately, they didn't give us the call-in number for all of us to call in, so some got it and some didn't. We found out later that half the group got it and half didn't. I was one that didn't, so I didn't get to attend that via conference call. And they did apologize over and over. They didn't send it to everybody. We did have a Northwest Kansas Highway official meeting for our meeting on 9/11 out at Public Works last week. Things are coming together very well. As of to date, we have 27 vendors signed up. All of them are going to have booth space but one. One is just making a cash donation to buy raffle prizes with. I guess not raffle prizes, are going to be freebies, handouts, but having a great group from all over. I got people coming from Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the rest are from Kansas, and one from Oklahoma. So that's coming together very well for the fairgrounds. That's going to be exciting times. I think on 9/11, we are going to set up on 9/10 that afternoon, and then open the doors up at 5 in the morning for the rest of the vendors to set up to be ready by 7:30. So that is going very well. Got great people. Donetta's doing a great job out there. She's doing a lot of the paperwork stuff, and so is Bill Rain. Kurt's helping with that. So things are going great. I think it's going to be a neat deal, so I invite all of you to come out for that, at least for a while that day. So exciting times there. Also, I got a visit with a Sedgwick County Commissioner about their sales tax that they put in place a few years ago. They actually did a 1-cent sales tax dedicated strictly to road and bridge only. And he said it was the best thing they ever did. He said it was a tough deal at first to promote it, but he said it went very, very well, and the educational process went well. And they did do a 1-cent down there, and he said it's the best thing they ever did to help their county out, maintain roads and bridges. So, but I'd add that in also. With that, I believe nothing else, guys. Thank you for all your hard work this evening, and everyone that attended in the crowd. And Donna, we will adjourn at 6:41. Thank you all for coming.